Hey, everybody, welcome to the Dream Big podcast. It's Bob Goff here, as always. And I love bringing on my friends. You get to hear voices that are important to me and then meet a couple new people that are making a huge difference in the world. And one of them is Peter Mutabazi. And Peter is just full of fun and compassion and whimsy, just all the things that I like in a person. And Peter's doing some fostering just on a really important big scale. And what I liked about it is that it makes it so accessible. I think everything that about writing books is to make faith more accessible, to make maybe love and compassion a little bit more accessible. And we met at a conference where Peter was speaking and had everyone dazzled by what he had to say. I think you brought one of your older sons as well, too. Did you, Peter? Was that along?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I brought
That was,
Anthony with me. Yes.
yeah, that was good fun. So introduce yourself a little bit and how you got into fostering and just a little bit about who you are so people have the context for this conversation we're going to have.
Yes, absolutely. So my name is Peter Mutabazi. I'm originally from Uganda. So my mom is from Uganda, but my dad is from Rwanda. So born and raised in Uganda. Grew up poor, poor of the poorest. It's hard to explain to someone what poverty means in Africa. But for you listeners who have been to Africa, you know what that means, where mothers cannot tell you to dream because they don't know if you make it tomorrow. Actually, I didn't have a name until when I was 2 years old. At two, my mom called me a gift given to me by God. Why? Because for every 100 children were born in my village, 60 would die before the age of two. So that's a little background where I come from, and then at the age of four, I began to realize that my father was the most abusive father you could think of, So I had poverty on one side, and on the other side, I had a mean dad. Then I ran away, became a street kid. And when I came to United States, I knew, that I wanted to do something. I think I was convicted more of, too much is given, much is required, that I felt I had been given so much. And I thought, what can I do to truly be accountable for that? I didn't know they would allow me to be a foster parent because I had traveled all over the world, but I had never seen a Black person who was adopting or in my country, in Ethiopia, or any other place. So I thought you have to be married, you have to be Caucasian and from America. So I didn't know I could do so. So for me, I walked into the foster care system, wanting to mentor teenagers. And the social worker who received me said, "Hey, have you ever thought of being a foster dad?" I was like, "Yes, I do, but I'm not qualified." She said, "Why?" I said, "I'm single." She's like, "No, 30% of our foster moms are single. You can be." And that day I signed up to be a dad,
Come
because
on.
yes, and it's been wonderful. So I've had 41 children and right
Wait a
now I have
second. Wait a second. Wait a second. 41 children you fostered.
yes.
Isn't that great? Because I want people that are listening to hear that number because when we think of fostering and each child precious in God's sight, but this is something you are committed to
Mhm.
as a single guy.
Yes, absolutely. Because I was one of those kids, I was unwanted, unloved as a street kid on the streets of Kampala, abused in every way, shape, form. But this stranger who saw me that I was trying to steal from him, he didn't see a thief. He didn't see a smiling teenager. He didn't see a nobody, but he saw a kid with potential and he changed my life. And in some way, I feel like I need to do the same for others as well. To whom much is given, much is required. I have been given so much.
It's a beautiful kind of Les Miserables story where someone who has been at the receiving end and so desperately in need identifies this would have made all the difference for me. It did make the difference when you met a kind person along the way. And then you've decided, I'm not going to wait for permission to do things I have permission to do. Tell us for you, even growing up, I understand in Uganda a cultural nuance that I learned several decades ago. There's you don't ask someone how many children you have. You would say, "Do you have many children?" And then they
Correct.
would say, "I have many."
I have
Um,
many, yes.
yeah, because if you said I had seven, then the next time you saw them, they might say, "I have six." So just to say, "Do you have many children?" They say, "Yes, I have many." How did you learn the language of fostering so that you could like not trip with this kinds of things, the nuances that would come with taking on so many children at different times in need?
Well, for me, I think my past really helped me. For most of the children that I have fostered, I've gone through the same abuse as they have. So in some way, it's been easy for me to go back and say, when I felt unwanted, how did I feel? How did I react? I stole for a living. Just that's the only way I survived to eat. To see my kids holding food or taking the internet. What was I missing at that point that I can truly change the life of this child? So to me, that has helped me. That the radar is on myself first. That I can look back and say, what behaviors did I do or experience or expose to myself or to others? For fear, for protection, but also for most of the time they didn't understand what I was going through, that I want to do for my kids. Empathy with understanding who they are has really been helpful. And also learning that I go to foster children with trauma. That is a baggage that I'm going to take in on. I'm not expecting, a kid, when I have a kid for a week and they don't do something, I'm like, something's up, something's wrong. That for me, trauma is part of my life, but also trauma of our kids, that I want to take in my kids as who they are rather than who I want them to be. And in that way, it has helped me to truly be there for them, because I've got to accept them as who they are, with all they've gone through, in order to be the best dad I can be, to help them truly overcome what they've gone through.
I'm thinking of Corinthians and Paul's word that God comforts us so we in turn can comfort other people with the comfort we receive directly from him. That
Mm-hmm.
this full circle moment that you had some unmet needs. And so you, having identified those, can meet those needs in other people. But it doesn't come without kind of fraught relationships, because there's a lot of things. I'm thinking of a young Ugandan boy that we became the legal guardians of. And as he grew up, he would be back and forth between the U.S. and Uganda. And I remember walking him to the airplane with Sweet Maria, and he got on the plane and flew away with somebody that was going to travel with him. And we're on our way out to the car. We're like, oh, we miss him already. And then I reached my phone and it's gone. Like, where's my phone? He stole my iPhone. And so when he landed in Amsterdam, I called him up on my phone from Maria's phone. And I'm like, oh, buddy, like, what? You swiped my phone? And he didn't cover his tracks pretty well. Um, but I could have a conversation with him to say, we are not raising you to be a thief.
Mm,
We are not, and it isn't about the iPhone. It's about character, integrity,
correct.
honesty. And so, how do you navigate that with kids that have a history of trauma and you want to be both compassionate at the same time, give them the kind of life and character lessons that they need? I know it's not one size fits all, but can you talk to us about how you do that with kids that have these fraught relationships?
Yes, absolutely. The guy who took me in, I was trying to steal from him. To me, I wasn't stealing. I was trying to survive. I was trying to get food so I can survive. It's how, for those 7 years, I had been trained to survive. So, but he didn't really focus on my stealing, but he focused on my need. He's like, why is he stealing? There has to be a need. And so he made the need food is all I needed my entire life. And I think with our kids as well, that they've grown up from homes where, they've faced different traumas and different abuse, that they've learned how to do things. But are they doing them because they love to do them? No, but by understanding the root. Why do you hoard a food? We give you food, but when the following morning we put under your bed, you know. But for this kid, he thinks food will not be there the next day. So he's taking enough to make sure that he has enough for the next day for his little brother. So then my job is to make sure that how do I really train their brain to think, hey, food is going to be there. So for example, on a pint of milk, we write everyone's name. So when they open the fridge, they can see their name on it. Hey, this pint of milk, there's a portion of mine that is there. That helps them to not think, oh, I don't have to worry about tomorrow. But also provide food in every way possible. At the stairs, I put a bag of, simple, granola balls that they can have, so they can access the food without always worrying, what am I going to eat tomorrow? So the more it's accessible and the more they can see it, the more we are training their brain like, hey, food is going to be there tomorrow. You don't have, to take it
Yes.
in a way. I have a boy who would steal every time we went to the grocery store. He would always steal candy, always. It wasn't anything else but candy. And so one day I followed him when he stole something, and I took something as well. So I got to the bathroom because that's where he was eating. And I said, hey, what did you get? I got this. He was shocked that I had done the same. But I wanted to be in his shoes at the moment, not accuse him, not do anything, but be in his shoes and say, I have been there. And so I go to talk to him later and say, I used to be a thief, but here's what could have happened to me. I could have gone to jail and I could not have been your dad. No?
Yeah.
But let's make a deal. What can I do for you that every time you come, you have something that you can have? So we made a deal. You get $2. $2 every time we go to the store to spend it on anything you want. To this day, he still gets $2. And he's
Oh, that's
and he's,
awesome.
ne- and he's never stolen again. I had to be in his shoe. I know the root why. When he was little, they would abuse him by not giving him any candies on his birthday or Christmas. So they would hold that against him. So he knew, hey, no one is going to give me candy. So I'm going to take it as much as I can, as soon as I can.
Oh,
And that,
please tell me he's 30 years old now and getting $2. I want to be that guy.
two, Bob, just two.
Oh, I love that. I hope if you're listening to this, you're out on a jog or you're driving or something, to think this isn't just the story that Peter has, but it's actually telling our story as well. This isn't just a story about kids that have been abused or in foster system, but there are stories. Another important voice in my life is a guy named Mike Foster. And he will often say that if we are feeling an emotion, that it's often tied to an unmet need. So if
Hmm.
you are feeling the emotion of anger, just say that there's an unmet need in there. Let's just figure out what that's connected to.
Right.
And so that must take a lot of patience. But how do you do it? I'm impatient. I mean, I make coffee nervous. I'm just like I'm just like traffic jams and church parking lots that are crowded. I'm like, I'd rather walk because I just can't be stuck. How have you navigated your own impatience? Oh, I love this. You have a dog.
Yes, I have a dog, Simba Rafiki.
I love Simba Rafiki. I like
Yes.
it. A little bit of everything.
Well, I have like all my kids are Caucasian white, so I was like, I need something African in my
Yeah.
home. So,
So how do you navigate the immense patience it would take?
well, yes, by learning, like it doesn't take overnight, it doesn't take 6 months, it takes years to heal someone's brain and to overcome the trauma. That was me. When they took me in, it didn't overnight. Just I was. Even when he took me in, sometimes I was steal and he would give me what I stole. He would give me extras like, hey, you took $2, but I'm giving you extra. And that used to anger me. Like, why is he so kind? Why? But along the way, it really taught me that they care and they love and they want the best for me. So consistent really works. We've learned about brain, like it's not something that happens overnight, but along you have to do it a million times in order for the kid to say, oh, okay, this is how I think, or this is what's going to work. Or I don't have to fear about what the consequences because B, it leads to A. So that yes, you have to be patient. It's something I have to, you know, learn how to. But also I've learned how to not put myself in that position. I am their dad. So whatever is going through them, I'll give you an example. If my teenager yelling at me and calling me all names, to know that it's not about me. They're not angry towards me, but I happen to be the safest person they can have to feel those emotions. So to constantly remove myself and say, Peter, it's not about you right now, but it's about this child. And that has helped me to separate my own feelings to be there for this kid. And then that really helps me to be there as much as I can and be patient at all time because I'm no longer some way inserting myself into what they're going through as a dad.
Yeah, that's another letter from Timothy, or Paul to Timothy, and he said, God chose me, the worst of sinners, to put on display his immense patience.
Yes.
And I try to
Hmm.
find myself when I'm feeling impatient, which is every minute of every day. I try to just slow it down a little bit and say, how could I think of people and how they would have dealt with this? And just hearing your very calm voice and imagining 41 troubled young people having come through that would give me another like marker to say, I wonder what Peter would do right now. Tell me this, get us current on who's under the roof right now. Uh, and what do you imagine the next year or two hold for you in this adventure that you've been on with so many lives?
Well, my goal, like really, I think I have found my calling. My calling to be an advocate for kids, to be a force parent as much as I can. Right now I've adopted three. So I have a 8, 9, and 17, and a 20-year-old. And then I have a toddler, 2.5, who came to me when she was just 9, and now she's just almost 3. So, Bob, I have not slept in 1 year and a half. I can tell you that.
You're a wild man. This is
Right.
crazy.
And then I have two twins that are here for just a week. So tell
Oh,
me, I can't really think right now. I haven't
yeah. How
slept.
do I imagine you're just be like just punchy all the time.
Well, you learn the routine. Like I'm a single dad, I get to learn the routine, and the kids love that when they know, when they expect. Here's when we have breakfast. Here's when we go to the park. Here's where I'm gonna take a shower. It helps, and because of the age difference, it really helps me. My teens don't really need me.
Yeah.
But my 8 and 9, they can dress themselves. They can go to the pantry and get something. They can play with one another. So
I'm
in
I'm
some way, it helps.
I'm kind of thinking about your comment about how they don't need you, but I know what you mean is that they need you in a different way.
Correct.
And so as our kids have gone from, toddlers to high schoolers to college and graduate school, and then are out and have their own families and all that, I have a different role in their life now than I
Correct.
had at a different time. And so
Correct.
even for parents or people that see having children in their future, to just say, what's my role in their life right now? So my role in the lives of my teenage boys was to have them graduate from high school. I was I didn't know if they could spell cat, but I
Hmm.
was just like, okay, we're gonna do this. But now with these 30-year-old adults that have married people and some of them made people and all that, my role is different to be supporter. How can I help you on your way? That would be the role of a porter in the Benedictine tradition, to go to the
Correct.
gate each day to say, how can I help you on your way?
Right.
Um, what are
Yes.
the things that you can suggest to people who have always been thinking about? I think of a buddy, Elizabeth Hasselbeck. She has a little gathering she's putting together called Yalsum. And so she's fostering infants and others temporarily during a moment of need so that the parents can get their legs underneath them. Also, thinking about like date nights for the people that are fostering, or giving you an evening out, maybe so you can go out on a date. Like so, but to cover that gap, I just think I'm so impressed with the creativity and ingenuity of people to say, here's a really practical need and here's how you can fit it. So give some words to the people that are listening that, man, just having you on and hearing your heart and your really interesting take on this. How could people onboard onto this? What's their next step?
Right. The next step, I've had people say, I cannot do it because I'm emotionally a wreck to be attached to those kids and let them go. And I've said, actually, you're the perfect parent, who has emotions, who has attachment, because most of the kids have never had those attachments, or they're struggling with, and they need someone who has those attachments to really help them out. So what sometimes you think is what make you be able to do is actually the strongest thing that we need for you to have. Again, I'm African, and I believe it takes a village to raise a child. But in the village, we all don't do the same job. We don't all contribute the same way. That I think even in the United States, we can be there for our kids. you mow yard. Most men know how to mow yard. Well, could you do it for a single mom who's a foster parent? Some of you are good at making cookies. Why not make extra? And you give it to a mom that needs them. Some of you have teenagers. Well, invite my teens so they can come and play video games. You don't even have to do anything. Just play video games with them.
Mm.
As foster parents, it's hard to ask for help. But don't wait for me to ask you. But if you're at the grocery store, say, Peter, I am at the grocery store. What do you want? And I'll tell you literally, I'll say, I need milk, I need eggs, and I need some juice. That's it. So do what you can without always having to change. Some people think, well, I have to change my life or what I do in order to help. No, what you do best is really the best thing you can do to help us. You have a job. Well, let my kids dress well and take them to your job for an hour, so you can show them what you do, why you dress, what you do, and the kind of clients you have, because they need that role model to see and feel and hear. For video games, it's, who doesn't play video games these days? Anyone below 40, but take my teens for 2 hours, play video games with them. And in those moments, you truly get to change a life for that child because you're the positive role model they can see. And then for us single people, yes, invite me for a coffee. It doesn't have to be dinner. You don't have to wait for a year. Just say, Peter, can you come over for a coffee? Because I need that adult talk,
Yes.
a moment to let it go, a moment to feel like I can take a shower and finally meet another human being.
Oh, Peter. Hey, I know there's logistics of finding who's going to watch the kids and all that, but come on out to San Diego. We've got a little place out here, and come as my guest. We'd love to have you just come and rejuvenate and relax a little bit. We'll spoil you rotten. We'll
Please,
after this podcast is done, I'll get the details to you.
please, I need that. I mean, with 7 kids now, I have 7 kids. With 7 kids, boy.
Yes. Well, here's my question to you that you've been listening. What's your next move? And so for some of you, your move is to agree and admire Peter. I mean, what's there not to admire about what Peter's done? But I can't find either the words agree or admire anywhere in the scriptures. And this isn't to feel bad about it, but just Jesus isn't listening, waiting for me to agree with them, nor to admire other people
Mm,
in what they're doing, but to just say there's Galatians 5:6, and again, another letter from Paul. And he says, the only thing that matters is faith expressed in love. And we can
mm,
express it in maybe it's just so many different ways. If fostering isn't your jam, then find some other way to express your faith and love. Kindness to whoever's checking you out at the market, and maybe go a little bit easier on the cop that pulls you over for speeding. Like, just find a way to onboard, and I think it'll just make things. But if Peter is a connection, like you just say, like, I've got more questions. I'm sure he's a busy guy, but seek out voices at your trust like this. In the show notes, we'll have a way to reach out to Peter, but um, connect with what it is that got stirred up inside of you when you listen to Peter's words, and then take your next bold move, whatever that is. If it isn't fostering, have it be something else. But Peter, thank you so much for your time and for being such a bright light. I just love that. We're going back to Uganda. We'll be in Kampala here just right after the summer, and I'm just so looking forward to talking about you behind your back. There's so many people that are just
Wow.
I know this guy, Peter. He's such a wild man in the way that he loves people, just unconventionally, radically, but so practically.
Absolutely. Yeah, and my whole goal in life is to really show people that we should not let our past define us. I chose to not say, hey, I had an abusive dad. I had a worse, I could have gone the other way. But I chose to check the Joseph highway. When his brothers met him, he's like, hey, oh no, we're in trouble. But what he said, for what you meant for evil, God used it for good to save a life. And that's my motto. If you're listening and you've gone through a difficult life and you say, I can't, no. As Joseph said, you can, for what they meant for evil, you can use your past to do good for yourself and for others well. It's what has motivated me to do well and to forgive my dad in all that as well.
To save many lives. Well, I love you, buddy. Thanks for making the time. You guys have been listening to the Dream Big podcast. Hope it's been a fun introduction, Peter. Now, this is the laboratory portion where you get to go make an impact in somebody, small or large. Make them a pie. If they don't want it, Peter and I do.
Yes, we'll take it.
All right, you guys. We'll talk to you next week.